This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, and Star Cable. Toll-free worldwide, 1-800-610-7035. My email address, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. X-Zone Nation, my guest this hour is Thomas Pierce. He's the author of The Last Rose, A True Celebration of Eternal Life. Now, Thomas E. Pierce married the love of his life, Joanne, on August 13th, 1966. The two enjoyed a happy marriage for more than 37 years and raised two beautiful daughters, Lisa and Kathy. Even after their two daughters left their home in Vineland, New Jersey, to start their own careers, Thomas and Joanne seized every opportunity to spend with the girls. It was during one of these visits, in March 2004, the Pierce family was changed forever. On March the 5th, 2004, Thomas and Joanne drove to Baltimore, Maryland for a weekend getaway with their oldest daughter, Lisa. The next morning, the family decided to take a boat tour of Baltimore's Inner Harbor and boarded the water taxi Lady D to take in the sights. In what would become one of the worst accidents in Baltimore's history, the water taxi capsized, throwing all 25 passengers into the frigid waters. The Pierce family was left clinging to the upturned boat awaiting rescue, but tragically, Joanne and Lisa were among the 5 lives claimed that day. In the many months that followed, Thomas struggled to piece together his life without Joanne and Lisa. He began writing stories and giving speeches about them, and slowly, Thomas began to heal. With the encouragement of friends and family, he wrote a book, The Last Rose, A True Celebration of Eternal Life. My guest this hour, X-Zone Nation, is Thomas E. Pierce. He is the author of The Last Rose, A True Celebration of Life, and his website is www.thelastrose.com. When I come back from this commercial break in 2 minutes, we're going to be speaking to Thomas about that day and about his book, The Last Rose. This is the X-Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X-Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern. Then a second network carries the show from 2 a.m. until 6 a.m. And then a third network carries the show from 6 p.m. until 10 p.m. Eastern. Thomas E. Pierce is my guest, author of The Last Rose, A True Celebration of Eternal Life. The website is www.thelastrose.com. We'll be back on the other side of this. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Thomas E. Price is our special guest. He is the author of The Last Rose, a true celebration of eternal life. His website is www.thelastrose.com. And Thomas, welcome to the X Zone.
Thank you, Rob. It's great to be here.
Thomas, tell us about your book, The Last Rose, a true celebration of life.
Well, it's about the first year of my life after I lost my wife and daughter in the Baltimore water taxi accident in 2004. And it's not a sad book. It's a book about everything that happened that year and how all the things that happened that got me through it. Mm-hmm. And they're things that I just couldn't explain. They just happened, and I don't know how they happened. I just know they did. It got to the point where I never really expected to write a book. I just started telling people all the stories about what was going on in my life. And at first I would start telling them, and I would expect that these people would want to put me in a straitjacket. But they didn't. They'd look at me and say, "You have to write these down so you don't forget them." So I did. But all I did was I put them in a Word document, and I had one line per story. And I looked at that one day, and I had 4 pages of one line per story. And I thought to myself, if something happens to me, no one's going to know what this is. So I decided I have to write these out. So I did. And I wrote them for myself and my grandchildren so I could share the stories with them later. And when I'd tell people that I did that, they'd say, "Well, can I read it?" "Sure." So I'd print a copy out and let them read it. And then they started telling me, "Well, you have to put this in a book." And I didn't really believe that, but I did. And I gave copies to some friends and relatives. And within 1 week after I did that, I started getting emails from people that I did not know telling me how much the book helped them in their life. And that's when I knew that I had to try and get this published because it was helping other people. And it's made life worthwhile.
Thomas, you said that the girls knew that this was going to happen, and that helped you to cope with it. Now, how is that possible?
I wish I knew. All I can tell you is that for months before the accident, Joanne did things that I can't explain.
Such as, sir?
She would tell me, "I would have to go before you because you could find someone else and go on with your life, and I could never do that." And I'd say, that doesn't make sense. Why are we talking about this? And the last time she did it, I could not make her change the subject. Finally, I said to her, "Joanne, listen to yourself. I'm 60 years old, overweight and bald, and you're making it sound like I'm going to have women lined up at my door waiting to go out with me if something happened to you. Do you know how ridiculous that sounds?" And then one time she said, "I feel like I'm dying." And I got upset. I said, "Do we have to go to the emergency room?" She said, "No, I'm okay. I just feel like I'm dying." And she told her sister that. And then she told her sister, "I'm not going to be here much longer." And, it got to the point where the day after the accident, I realized that nothing happens by accident. And I told my daughter, "I'm not surprised that I'm still here and that your mom's not. But I'm really surprised that Lisa didn't make it." And she said, "No, Dad. 1 month ago, Lisa called me early in the morning and said, 'Grandma appeared to me in a dream last night and told me that I would be with her shortly. So when I go into school today, I'm going to contact the legal representatives that we recommend to the students and get the forms to make out a will.'" And I have the forms that she filled out that day.
Do you believe in predestiny?
I think we're pretty much in charge of our own destiny. We make our own decisions, but I don't think there are any coincidences. You know, I think coincidences are just God's way of remaining anonymous. You know, there's a reason for everything, and I can't explain it, but I certainly do believe it.
How have these tragic events that happened in 2004 had an effect on your religious beliefs?
Well, I can tell you, I've always believed in an afterlife, but I don't care how strong your faith is. When you go to a funeral and you watch that casket being lowered into the ground, I know I always stood there and thought, wow, is this the end? Is this the last? Are we really fooling ourselves about an afterlife? But after having gone through this and seeing the signs that the girls left for me, and then going to a medium, and I wasn't sure I believed in mediums back then, but someone talked me into doing it. And 2 hours with this man were totally life-changing. He told me things that I had done that year and how they were with me that I just couldn't believe that he could come up with that. And the only thing he knew about me was my first name was Tom. And I can no longer doubt that there truly is an afterlife. He had 2 hours with him was totally life-changing.
What did he say to you, Tom, in those 2 hours that changed your life?
Well, for example, he would tell me things like, he asked me at one point, "Who's Kayla?" And I said, "Well, that's my oldest granddaughter." And he said, "I think they're trying to tell me that they watch over them while they're in daycare." And I said, "That's very nice." So he said, "I think Kayla has a friend at daycare named Casey." And I said, "I don't have a clue." Well, he allows you to tape the session. And the next day I played that for my daughter. And we got to that point in the tape, and she said, "Dad, Kayla does not have a friend at daycare named Casey." And I said, "Well, he doesn't get everything right, I'm sure. But there is another little girl in her class by the name of Kayla. So everyone in her class calls her by her initials, KC."
Oh, my gosh.
You know, and he went on for 2 hours telling me things that he would have no way of finding out or knowing. And it was inspiring.
Tom, did you feel a presence, a connection with your wife and daughter when you were sitting with the medium? Did you feel their presence?
Oh yeah. When you come out of there, you're on such an emotional high that you don't truly come down off of it for two days at least. You know, you just get so excited. And I had relatives in upstate New York, and they knew how excited I was, and they were a little leery. They thought I was being ripped off here and led astray. So they came down that year for Memorial Day, and there were 35 of them.
Wow.
And they all sat and listened to that 2-hour tape of that session, determined to convince me that this guy was a fraud. And not one of them could deny that he had a gift that they could not explain. It was just phenomenal.
Does your wife and daughter come to visit you now in dream, or do you feel their presence around you?
I sometimes feel their presence. I don't really dream about them. There's several times my wife has woken me up in the middle of the night to tell me something, And I wake up and I'll on the first anniversary, I woke up at four in the morning, and I saw a white stand with a bottle of red wine and 2 wine glasses, and I was looking at a blank wall, and I just knew that she was there, and I just said I love you and went back to sleep. But I don't really dream about them, but they've gotten through to me several times. The 4 days after the accident, the accident happened on a Saturday. My daughter was in the hospital until Monday night when she passed, and then we came home on a Tuesday. And that day, I was in the house, and a friend that owns a restaurant had brought in dinner for all 35 of us that were there that day.
Thomas, I hate to do this. We've got to take a commercial break. Please stand by. Thanks very much for being with us, Thomas. Pleasure talking to you. Exonation Thomas Pierce is our special guest. He is the author of The Last Rose, A True Celebration of Eternal Life. His website is thelastrose.com. We'll be back with Thomas Pierce on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone on the Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, and Star Cable. My name is Rob McConnell. We're broadcasting from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Now, Hamilton is in between Toronto and Niagara Falls on Lake Ontario, and we're smack dab in the middle of the Great Lakes Triangle. If you'd like to give us a call, our toll-free worldwide number is 1-800-610-7035. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, on MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com, and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. The April edition of the X-Chronicles newspaper was released earlier this morning, and if you'd like to receive your complimentary link to the site that you can read the paper online, it's 44 pages, full color. If it's printed out, we also publish a print version. It's 11 by 17, a full newspaper size. Or you can even download it. All you have to do is just send me an email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com and say, hey, Rob, can I get a link to the newspaper? And not only will we give you this month's link, but we'll also give you links to the past 30 editions. All this with the compliments of the good people that advertise with us in the X-Chronicles newspaper. My guest this hour is Thomas E. Pierce. And he's the author of a book entitled The Last Rose, A True Celebration of Eternal Life. His website is www.thelastrose.com. And Thomas, what does the title refer to?
Well, Joanne and I were married on August 13th, 1966. And the first month, I went out and I bought a rose for her on our anniversary, a yellow rose. And she really liked that. So the second month came along, and I went back to the florist, and I thought, maybe I should buy 2 roses. And then I thought, nah, that could get expensive. So I bought 1 rose. And I bought her 1 rose every 13th for 37 and a half years.
Oh, my gosh. Thomas, how has writing the book helped you on the road to recovery?
Well, writing the book was just therapeutic. I enjoyed it. I actually felt like it was being dictated to me from above. But the real thing that I've gotten out of the book are the letters and emails that people have sent me after they read it. so many people have taken something from the book that related to them in their lives and then written to me about it and to tell me how much the book helped them get through something. And what fascinates me is no one's ever picked the same thing. Everyone picks something that's meaningful to them, and it's never the same thing twice. And it's just fascinating to get those. I've got a stack of emails and letters, and now when I open my email, I never know if I'm going to end up sharing some tears with someone I've never met. And it's a nice feeling. It really is.
Tell me, what was it like sharing such a personal and tragic story? You know, the loss of your wife, the loss of your daughter with the public.
Well, my wife used to tell me that I was a man of very few words. And after the accident, I just felt a need to talk. And I would talk to anybody that would listen. And I can't explain why. It just made me feel good. I liked talking about what was going on. And the things that were going on were just so amazing that I had fun talking about them. You know, some of the amazing things. The one chapter of the book is all about the rainbows. When the rescue ship started back to shore that day, there was a beautiful double rainbow over that boat. And I looked up at it and I thought, that's the most beautiful rainbow I've ever seen. And then I looked at him and said, but I just can't appreciate it right now. But I thought it was very appropriate that it should be going over those men at that time. In the book, I talk about 5 different rainbows that appeared that year, and every one of them appeared on a very specific date. You know,
Can you share that with us?
Well, at one point, on our anniversary, the first anniversary, which would have been our 38th wedding anniversary, I was in upstate New York. And we were preparing for a family party, for a going-away party for one of my cousins that was leaving for Australia. And I got a phone call from my nephew, and he said, Uncle Tom, go outside right now and look south. And I did, and there was a beautiful rainbow. And while I was standing there looking at it, I got a phone call from my daughter, who was on her way up for the party. And she was about a half hour away, just getting off the Adirondack Northway. And she called me and said, can you see the rainbow from where you are? You know, and things like that still happen. Last year, my daughter and I we took my granddaughters to Disneyland for the first time. And as we flew into Orlando, it was a beautiful day. And my daughter grabbed my arm and said, look out the window, Dad. And there's the most beautiful double rainbow again. You know, it's always there to let you know that they're with you. And I can't explain it. I don't try to explain it. I just enjoy it. You know, the same with the number 13. We were married on the 13th, and the 13s appear to me all the time. The largest chapter of the book is called The 13 Stories. And I can't explain how they happen either. The first one started the day of the funeral. And the funeral director had all the pallbearers standing up in front of the church, and so that no one could watch while they closed the caskets. And I leaned over to my daughter and I said, that's just beautiful. It's like a wall of honor. And Kathy said to me, Dad, didn't you have something to do with this? And I said, no. What are you talking about? You had nothing to do with this? I said, no. She said, count the men up there. I picked 13 pallbearers.
Oh, my gosh.
Nobody picks an odd number of pallbearers, but I did that day, and I didn't realize it. You know, but after I wrote the book, they still appear. The first time I did a book signing, I was out in Arizona, and we went to Mass the day before. The book signing was on a Monday night.
Mm-hmm.
And towards the end of Mass, I just said a little prayer to help me get through the book signing, because I'd never done it before. And as soon as I did that, they said, the final hymn today will be number 13 in your yellow missalette. Go make a difference. I can't explain that.
But do we really need to explain such a beautiful gift? Do we really need to explain the rainbows? Because I'm sure, Tom, that you and your daughter and your grandchildren understand what that gift is.
Oh, yeah. And it's, to me, lots of people will look at me and say, I don't understand how you can believe all that. I've never gotten any signs from the people that have passed.
The question is, have they been looking for those signs?
You have to open yourself up to those signs and their love.
That's right.
If you can do that, it'll come through, but they're not going to waste their energies trying to hit you over the head with something that you're not going to pay attention to. You have to open yourself up to receive the love that they want to share. And if you do that, you will experience a love and a peace and a joy that is just beyond belief. And that's what I try and do with the book. I try and help people to accomplish that in their life. I happen to think that positive thoughts are the most creative things in the world. And as long as we only allow ourselves to have positive thoughts about something, mm-hmm. positive things will continue to happen in our lives. And, it's just the way that I've always lived my life. And it works for me. And hopefully it'll work for others if I can get them to try it.
But you see, Tom, you're doing something very special. You're doing something that not very many people do. Number one, you're saying, this is who I am. This is my story. I am sharing it with you because I want to give you the opportunity of opening up so that these wonders can be yours as well. I'm sharing my loss because I know it's not over, that this is just another transition through the library of life that each and every one of us go through. You're talking about eternal love, eternal hope. And you've got a message. Earlier you said that people were coming to you and sharing their stories. That's because, Tom, you opened up yourself and said, I've got a story to share with you. And you know what? God love you for that.
It's been fun. I'd go out to dinner someplace, and after the accident, and one of the things I thought would be the hardest was to go to dinner alone. But I never found myself alone. Rather than tie up a table, since it was just me, I'd sit at the bar, and invariably somebody would sit next to me, and I'd start telling them, and I'd mention my wife, and then they'd say, well, where's your wife tonight? And then I'd start telling them. And it's amazing when you open yourself up to them, the stories, they open themselves right back up to you.
That's right.
And it's a phenomenal experience. It really is.
Everyone has a story. All we have to do is listen.
Yeah. And if you tell yours,
that's right.
They'll tell theirs. It's just a beautiful experience. And
how is your other daughter doing, Tom?
Very well. She apparently is a lot like me. She finds the good in things, and if you can do that, you're way ahead in this life always, no matter what happens.
Tom, a reporter said that the book is, and this is a quote, a story of survival and true love and how it prevails. How would you elaborate on that hopeful theme?
Well, if you allow it, and you realize they're always with you,
Mm-hmm.
you go on and just enjoy life. And they're going to be right there enjoying it with you. When I first went to that medium, the first thing he said when I walked in the door was, "Your dad's here." And I guess I didn't expect that. And then he said, "Your dad's really excited about being in heaven." And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, he's not excited about being in heaven. If all of this is real, he's excited because he's never had a chance to talk to me before. Because my dad was killed in World War II when I was 8 months old.
Oh, gosh.
And he got to talk to me that day. And that was emotional. For him and me. And, when you open yourself up to love
Mm-hmm.
and realize how powerful only allowing positive thoughts in your life can be, it's just a beautiful experience.
Tom,
and
you and I
goes on forever.
Tom, you and I have to take a commercial break right now. Please stand by. Thomas E. Pierce is my special guest this hour, Exonation. He's the author of The Last Rose, A True Celebration of Eternal Life. His website is www.thelastrose.com. That's www.thelastrose.com. Thomas E. Pierce and I will be back after this break. Don't go away. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Exonation, Thomas E. Pierce is my very special guest this hour. He's shared with us one of the most heart-touching stories that I've ever heard on this show, doing this show for 20 years. I can feel the love, and I can feel the belief, and I can feel the emotion as I'm talking to this guest. Thomas, thank you very much for sharing this story with us.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure, always.
Tom, what is the main message that you would like our listeners around the world and the readers around the world to take from your book?
Well, in this day and age when everyone's talking about being green and recycling and not wasting anything, it's important to remember that there's one thing that we must always recycle, and it's the one thing that we must always waste. And it's the only thing that we can never run out of, because the more we waste of it, the more we receive it. And that's love. What's important in life is that we all try and be the best that we can be. Not the best that we can be for ourselves, but the best that we can be for one another, for all mankind. And, if I can get people thinking positively and sharing their love with everyone that needs it, and we all need it, then that's the purpose of the book. It's to help people go on with their lives, particularly after a loss, in such a positive way that things just constantly get better, not worse. And it can be done.
Thomas, where can our listeners get copies of your book?
Well, any bookstore can order it for you, but it's also available all over the web on hundreds of sites like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Borders, and it's also available as a Kindle book from Amazon, and which now means that you can actually read the book on your PC, on your iPhone, on your iPad, and it's easy to obtain, and in both digital and hard copy. And you can go to my website, thelastrose.com, and there'll be links there to order it, and hopefully people will do that.
Thomas,
and hopefully there'll be the benefit from it.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure you've touched many hearts around the world tonight with your story. I know you've touched mine. Thomas, thank you very much for joining us. Take care of yourself, my friend, and I wish you all the success in the world. And I'd like you to do something for me.
Sure.
Always be you, and give my very best to your daughter and your grandchildren.
I will.
Thomas E. Price. My great pleasure, sir. Thomas E. Price, the author of The Last Rose, A True Celebration of Life, has been my very special guest this hour, X Zone Nation. His website is www.thelastrose.com. That's www.thelastrose.com. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news at 6.5 minutes past as the X Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.